In this episode of Kitchen Nightmares: The Aftermath, an owner who has no clue on how to operate a restaurant hides from his creditors and complains about salads to Gordon. A head chef who is unable to communicate associates eating with sexual intercourse and is highly overpaid. A competent team with no proper leadership. And this guy talking about food. Before we get into the episode, a quick word from the director, editor, scriptwriter, producer, and terrible fact checker, Steve. Yes, he does all that by himself. Yes, he thinks he's the best thing since sliced bread. And I am not getting paid for this. Just go with it.
Hello guys, it's me Steve again, and welcome back to another episode of Kitchen Nightmares: The Aftermath. We have rolling blackouts, and it caused my PC to crash. We've had these blackouts since 2008. I had to replace some hardware on my computer and claim back subscriptions to software I need to run the channel. I'm going to be trying out a new voiceover style and a few changes in editing. I won't change the original content too much, which brings me to my next point. I would like to thank you all for the support on my first video. All the likes and dislikes are much appreciated. It means a lot to me and shows me that I have like-minded friends out there. And thanks for your comments and updates on the proper location of the former Bonapartes. Now on to the featured video. In this Kitchen Nightmares episode, Gordon visits the glass house in Ambleside, Cumbria. I have to say, this town, like so many other British towns, is absolutely beautiful. The business is owned by Neil Farrell, who had always dreamed of having his own restaurant one day. But in the 3 years he has owned it, poor management has brought on some enormous debts to him personally, so much so that he switches off his phone to avoid talking to his creditors. Now I have to say, if you're in deep debt like that, it can be quite shameful and a hard blow to your ego. I can understand why he does that, because it does put you under a lot of stress, but his best bet would have been to negotiate some sort of reduced payment deal, but I digress. The head chef of the restaurant is Richard Collins, who is trained at Claridge's and is paid a whopping £25,000 a year. Upon meeting Richard, Gordon then asks his opinion on why they're failing, to which Richard responds he's not really sure, because everything they have tried so far has not worked at all or bore little fruit. Gordon decides not to order from the menu and tells Richard the chef to cook his best dish, which is a duck cake and chili jam and a lamb shank. Gordon describes the duck cake to look like a Scotch egg and bites down on a bone midway through eating. The lamb shank with parsnip crisps is fatty and the crisps are covered in a smelly oil. Gordon meets the rest of the staff, Ian, a waiter who had decided he wanted to try his hand at cooking, and Claire, a part-time chef who owns a bookshop, who is also Ian's girlfriend. Randall is a kitchen porter, and like Gordon, a proud Scot, and Craig, a trainee chef in his second year of culinary college. Later that night, Gordon observes a chaotic dinner service, with the kitchen unable to cope and poor quality dishes being sent out to the diners. The kitchen goes into complete chaos, with all communication breaking down. Dishes are being returned, and orders are being sent out to non-existent tables, while other diners are left waiting for food. The next day, Gordon reveals undercover footage, which was filmed unbeknownst to the kitchen staff. The video shows clear health hazards, all which took place over the previous week. It shows meat being tenderized in a frying pan, and pesto mixed on the floor, ingredients being left uncovered and rotten vegetables not thrown out. He then proceeds to buy cleaning products and orders the staff to clean the kitchen. And in a fashion that you will only see in the British version of Kitchen Nightmares, Gordon gets his hands dirty, along with the rest of the kitchen staff. They proceed to scrub down all the walls, washing off the ceiling, scrubbing all kitchen utensils and appliances, finally ending with a new coat of paint. Later, Gordon comes to the realization that the restaurant overbooks on the weekends, and during the week they have little to no clients coming in for dinner or lunch. A clear sign that the front of house, under the control of Neil, doesn't really have a clue of what they're supposed to be doing. Gordon also thinks this is due to the location of the restaurant being discreet, and thus hard to find, so he advises Neil to place signs that could direct people to the restaurant. He revamps the menu and suggests a £10 2-course meal for lunch that features an open mackerel sandwich. Gordon then takes the staff outside, They sit down and each have a serving of the mackerel sandwich. He then takes this time to find out about the problems in the kitchen from them. They start to open up and complain about a lack of communication which affects their morale. Gordon then observes the next service carefully and notices every member of the team responding except head chef Richard. Gordon also notices Neil interferes a lot in the kitchen's affairs, which leads to more confusion amongst the team. He then tells Neil to focus on his area, working directly with the clients, and leave the kitchen to do their own thing. Later that night, one of the book tables turns up early, and Gordon then tells Neil to take the opportunity and pitch the a la carte menu, thus bypassing the cheap lunch so that he can make some profit to pay off his debts. But Neil, instead of taking Gordon's advice, gives them the cheaper menu. Gordon then mentions to Neil to try and focus on selling wine, but instead Neil again shifts his attention to the kitchen. In order to prove that Neil has nothing to worry about, Gordon decides to give Neil and Richard the night off, and tells them to order dinner at the restaurant as normal customers. This all happens without the kitchen staff knowing about this. Upon receiving their food, Richard and Neil can't believe how good it is, and that the kitchen did it without the leadership of the head chef. Neil and Richard start having a conversation about the future of the restaurant, to which Neil asks Richard if he will be able to keep to the changes Gordon has made when he leaves. Richard gives a very half-witted reply, saying he is really scared, but will do his best or die trying. After the meal, Richard and Neil head down to the kitchen and proceed to congratulate the team on a job well done. Richard then talks to the kitchen staff and in a very controlling manner says to them, he was impressed but they are still his, in his direct words, "You're all mine." The next day, Gordon tells Neil he thinks he should get rid of Richard, since the kitchen team could handle themselves quite well without him, and he thinks Richard is a detriment to the success of the business. Gordon also mentions to Neil he would be saving £25,000 a year. However, Neil refuses and insists on keeping Richard as the head chef and says he still believes in him. The next day, Gordon takes Richard for a walk outside, where he talks to Richard about keeping the morale up and communicating better with his team. For the relaunch, Gordon offers a 3-course meal to 70 locals and reduces the size of the menu from 100 to about 20 items. He goes on to teach the chefs how to create the new dishes and observes how well they coordinate, and it really impresses Gordon. He also introduces an upgraded version of the lamb dish, a Caesar salad, and a bread butter pudding for dessert. Later that night during the dinner service, mistakes were made, such as the salad leaving the kitchen without dressing. The kitchen once again falls apart without proper leadership from Richard. Orders start to pile up, and Neil becomes frustrated with the whole deal. Instead of blaming Richard for not being able to do his job properly, he complains to Gordon that the salad is too large. This leads to a small argument between Gordon and Neil, however it soon blows over. The kitchen staff manage to pull it off, and they end the night with success. The next day, Gordon praises the team for their hard work and their efforts, and making the evening a success. Claire decides she is going to sell her bookshop and focus on a career in cooking, and Gordon congratulates her decision. Richard and Gordon have a chat, wherein he tells Gordon that Neil gave him 3 options. They are to leave, be demoted, or work harder and stick with the changes Gordon had introduced. He chose the third option naturally, and Neil gave him a month to prove himself. Before he leaves, Gordon gifts the chefs a new clock with an inspirational message that says, "Never let your mistakes leave the kitchen." On Gordon's revisit, he sees big signs near the restaurant and that the prices of the dishes are low. He also discovers that Richard still remains as the head chef and has expanded the menu to include pomegranate risotto, and Claire had sold her bookshop to focus on cooking. Randall and Craig had moved on, and Ian had been given more responsibility in the kitchen. There is much better communication, and as a result the quality of the food improved, and also better service. Customers seem to love the food, and takings are up 20%, and Neil is finally able to take some money home and repay his debtors. Fun fact, his phone is now also on all the time. The restaurant, according to Gordon, had some positive reviews on TripAdvisor, however I can no longer locate the original reviews. Ramsay also offered kitchen positions in his restaurant, and Claire and Ian accepted. Claire worked the garnish section in her short time there, but she and Ian left just a few weeks later. It's unclear why they left, but Claire told a reporter from the caterer it was due to personal reasons, and the reason for Ian leaving is still unknown. However, one can come to the conclusion that he left because his girlfriend did. So what happened to the restaurant after Gordon's second visit? Unfortunately, the Glass House closed in March 2014. The head chef, Richard, is now self-employed and has listed his experience as head chef at the Glass House. This is from his social media. I won't be displaying any of that here for privacy reasons, but you can find his profile on LinkedIn. It's unclear what Neil, the owner, is currently up to and what happened to him after the show, since he has not updated his social media profiles. But we can assume he either retired or started a new business, since the restaurant was last turning a profit under his ownership, and selling it would have meant that he stood to earn quite a huge sum of money. That is just my opinion. His profile you can find on Facebook. The Glass House became the Fulling Mill, which also had really good reviews on TripAdvisor. It was sold to new owners in 2020 and renamed to the Flying Fleece Pub. The Flying Fleece also has a really good reputation and some fantastic reviews on TripAdvisor. The Flying Fleece is still open till this day, so if you do want to experience the old venue of the Glass House, you can still visit it. So we can see that unlike the previous restaurant, Bonaparte's, this restaurant turned out to be a success. We could see Neil actually taking what he was taught by Gordon and implementing it, since he knew only he had the power to make the business a success. Richard, the head chef, in my opinion, was dragging his feet up until the arrival of King Gordon. We could immediately see a change in his behavior and how the kitchen functioned as a unit once Neil gave him an ultimatum. I think it's safe, from hindsight, to attribute the failure of the restaurant to the owner Neil. If he had had the guts to demand proper work from Richard earlier on, he could have made a success of his restaurant without the help of Gordon. But that doesn't make for good TV. I have to say, however, that Claire and Ian, in my opinion, lost out on a really great opportunity working for Gordon. Even if they didn't want to stay, they could have returned to their old workplace. However, we don't really know what the proper reasons may be, as she said it's for personal reasons that she left. That could mean anything, as her answer was so vague. I can, however, say that most people won't really make it in a high-stress environment. I think the reason she left is due to the fact that it's not as laid back as it was at her old job. She might also have had a different expectation of what the job would be like compared to how it actually was in reality. But that's their choice, and just my opinion. It would be good to know what they got up to, and what they are doing at this time though. If anyone knows, hit me up in the comments. So we have come to the end of this episode, guys. Thanks for watching, and I hope you liked watching the video as much as I did making it. Remember to hit the like button, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Until next time, goodbye for now.